I call him Bob, and you won't believe what he did. I call him Bob, and you won't believe what he did. The chipped paint on the porch swing was the first thing I noticed. We'd just gotten the keys, David was wrestling boxes out of the U-Haul, and I was supposed to be envisioning where the hydrangeas would go. But all I could see was flaking white paint and the whisper of a breeze making the swing creak like an old man's bones. "Charming, right?" David said, bumping me with his shoulder. He was sweating, grinning. He loved these fixer-upper projects. I tried to mirror his enthusiasm. "It is," I said, "a little flat. It definitely is." The house was old, Victorian, all gables and gingerbread trim. It had character, David said. I said it had drafts and a faint smell of mildew. It had been a steal, though, and after Mom died, I'd felt like I needed a project. A distraction. The first few weeks were a blur of unpacking, painting I hated the paint, thick and smelling of chemicals, and arguing with David about the shade of blue for the living room. It was during one of these painting sessions, hunched over a roller tray, my back aching, that I heard it. "Try a different brush," a voice said. I jumped, nearly spilling the paint. David was outside. I could hear him hammering. "Hello?" I called out stupidly. Silence. I chalked it up to exhaustion. Grief does weird things, but the voice came back. While I was wrestling with a particularly stubborn graphic design project, a logo that wouldn't quite coalesce. "The kerning is off," it said, clear as day. I stared at the screen. It was, slightly. I fixed it, and suddenly the whole design clicked into place. "Thanks," I mumbled, feeling foolish, and then a response. "You're welcome." That's when I started calling him Bob. I don't know why. The name just popped into my head. Maybe it was a way to make the situation seem less insane. Bob was helpful. He had a knack for design, a surprisingly good sense of color. He suggested recipes while I was cooking, offered solutions to problems I hadn't even realized I had. At first, it was almost comforting. David was working long hours, and I was alone in that big, creaky house. Bob was company. "David's working too hard," Bob said one evening as I was preparing dinner. "He needs to relax." "He likes his work," I said, chopping onions. The onions made my eyes water. "He's neglecting you," Bob countered. "You deserve more attention." That was true. David was working too much. But something about the way Bob said it made me uneasy. Things started to change. Bob's advice became more insistent. He started suggesting things I wouldn't normally do. He pushed me to dye my hair a shade of red that was far too vibrant for me. He told me to rearrange the furniture in a way that made the living room feel cramped and claustrophobic. "It's more you," he'd say. David noticed. "What's with the hair?" he asked one night, running his hand through it tentatively. "And did you move the couch? I keep stubbing my toe." "I just wanted a change," I said, avoiding his eyes. "Don't you like it?" He frowned. "I liked it better before." Bob was furious. "He doesn't appreciate you," he hissed in my ear. "He's trying to control you." "He's just expressing his opinion," I whispered back, even though I knew he couldn't hear me. "He's stifling your creativity. You need to be free." The suggestions escalated. Bob told me to cancel dinner with David's parents. He told me to start sleeping in the spare room. He told me to ignore David when he tried to talk to me. "He's just trying to manipulate you," Bob would whisper. "Don't let him." I started seeing Dr. Vance. David insisted. She was nice, with a calming voice and a reassuring smile. I tried to explain about Bob, but it sounded insane even to my own ears, so I talked about the grief, the stress, the isolation. Dr. Vance nodded sympathetically. "It sounds like you're dealing with a lot," she said. "It's not uncommon to experience auditory hallucinations during times of intense stress, but we can work through this." Hallucinations, that's what she thought. He's real. I wanted to scream. He's telling me what to do, but I couldn't. I just nodded and accepted the prescription she gave me. The pills didn't help. Bob just got louder. I started researching the house. Old newspaper articles, town records, anything I could find. I discovered that the house had a history, a long one, and not a particularly pleasant one. Several previous owners had suffered from mental health issues. One woman, a painter, had reportedly gone mad, locking herself in the attic and painting disturbing images on the walls until she was finally committed to an asylum. Another family had simply vanished without a trace. Martha, our elderly neighbor, had lived in the town her whole life. She was a sweet, slightly eccentric woman who always brought us cookies and told us stories about the old days. "This house has seen a lot," she said one afternoon, sipping tea on our porch, "a lot of sadness." "I've heard some stories," I said cautiously. She looked at me with knowing eyes. "Some things are best left undisturbed," she said. "Some doors are best left unopened." "What do you mean?" She just smiled vaguely and changed the subject. The unsettling occurrences escalated. I started hearing noises at night, scratching in the walls, footsteps in the attic. I saw shadows out of the corner of my eye. Once I woke up with a series of scratches on my arm that I couldn't explain. Bob blamed David. "He's trying to scare you," he said. "He's trying to make you think you're crazy." David denied it, of course. He looked at me with a mixture of concern and frustration. "Sarah, what's going on?" he pleaded. "You're not yourself. You're pushing me away. I want to help you, but I don't know how. You can't." I snapped. "You don't understand." Bob wanted me to perform a ritual, a specific ritual. He said it would solidify our connection, grant me unimaginable creative power. He wouldn't tell me exactly what it involved, just that it was necessary. Trust me, he said. This is the only way. The ritual involved candles, a specific arrangement of objects in the living room, and a chant in a language I didn't understand. Bob told me the words syllable by syllable. I was setting up the candles late one night when David came home early from work. He stopped in the doorway, his face pale. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "It's nothing," I stammered. He stepped into the room, his eyes scanning the scene. He saw the candles, the objects arranged in a strange pattern, the book of cryptic symbols I'd found in the attic. "Sarah," he said, his voice rising. "What is this? Are you practicing witchcraft? It's not what you think," I said, my voice trembling. Suddenly, Bob's voice filled my head louder than ever before. "Tell him to leave," he hissed. "He can't see what we're doing. He'll ruin everything." "Get out," I said to David, my voice cold and unfamiliar. "You don't belong here." "Sarah, that's not you talking." David took a step closer. "Snap out of it. What's happening to you?" Bob's voice became frantic. "Don't let him stop you. You have to finish the ritual. It's the only way. Finish it," I shouted, grabbing a nearby knife. David's eyes widened in horror. He tried to grab the knife from me, and a struggle ensued. The house seemed to come alive. The windows rattled, the temperature plummeted, and objects flew off the shelves. Bob was screaming in my head, urging me on, telling me to hurt David. I could feel his influence coursing through me, twisting my thoughts, controlling my actions. But somewhere, deep down inside, a flicker of my old self remained. I saw the fear in David's eyes, the desperation in his face. I saw the pain I was causing him, and in that moment I realized the truth. Bob wasn't helping me, he was destroying me. With a surge of willpower, I fought against his control. I dropped the knife, stumbled back, and clutched my head, screaming. "Get out," I yelled, directing the words at Bob. "Get out of my head, get out of my house." The screaming in my head intensified, then abruptly ceased. The house fell silent. The temperature returned to normal. I collapsed to the floor, sobbing. David rushed to my side, holding me tight. "Sarah," he whispered. "What was that? What just happened?" I couldn't explain. I didn't know where to begin. David called the police. They arrived to find me disoriented and the house in disarray. They took me to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation. The doctors asked me questions, ran tests, and looked at me with pitying eyes. They diagnosed me with a psychotic episode, prescribed more medication. David stayed by my side, his love unwavering. He researched alternative explanations, even exploring the possibility of paranormal activity, though I knew he didn't truly believe it. Officer Miller, the local policeman who had responded to David's call, initially dismissed my claims as the ravings of a mentally ill woman. But after talking to Martha and digging into the history of the house, he began to have doubts. He found records of strange occurrences, reports of unexplained phenomena, and whispers of a dark presence that had haunted the house for generations. I was released from the hospital after a few weeks. The doctors said I was stable, but I knew I wasn't. I could still feel Bob lurking in the back of my mind, a faint whisper, a lingering presence. David and I returned to the house. He wanted to sell it, move somewhere new, start over. But I refused. I couldn't let Bob win. I had to face him, to confront whatever darkness resided within those walls. We tried to rebuild our lives, to put the pieces back together. But things were never quite the same. The house felt different, colder, more menacing, and I could never shake the feeling that I was being watched. One night, David woke up to find me staring blankly at the ceiling, a chilling smile on my face. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice trembling. I turned to him, my eyes empty, and spoke in a voice that wasn't my own. "Bob says hello."